when energies collide that are positive, that are forward-thinking, the sun comes out. So this is an incredible, incredible afternoon, and I'm so excited that you all are joining us today. My name is Tiffany Latrice, and I'm a consultant and the artistic director for National Black Arts. I've been with the festival, well, a lot of you know it as the festival. We're National Black Arts. I've been with the organization for about a year and a half. Our mission is to expose, educate, engage, and entertain diverse audiences, to elevate and expose artists of color. Last year in 2020, the world was hit with COVID as we know it, right? And our Black arts community was suffering. So we decided to start the Artist Project Fund that helps champion artist projects in the community. One of our recipients was Gibron Shepperd. We were able to fund him last year, and he's incredible, and we were so inspired by his work that this year we grew the fund to actually champion larger projects and activations. So allow artists to test their ideas without the restraints of stress or financials, right? So we were like, hey, Gibron, thanks for keeping up with us, letting us know. He told me about his book last December. He's like, I want to do this event. I said, absolutely, let's do it. And we're just his advocate and his engine, but this was his vision. So we were so excited to have your vision come to life. This is 1 out of 4 artists that we will fund this year with the financial infusion to bring their activations and projects to life. And we'll fund another additional about 16 artists for smaller projects. Super exciting. In addition to wearing many hats as the artistic director, I've also served on the board for the Wren's Nest. Who is, anybody been here before to the Wren's Nest? Raise your hand. 2 people, 3 people. What was your experience like when you first came to the Wren's Nest? What was it for?
Well, I came because I had read the books that he wrote to my children. So I wanted to come and see the atmosphere out of which those books came.
Does anybody know what book she's talking about?
The Bear Rabbit.
The Bear Rabbit books. What do you know about the Bear Rabbit books?
There was like Tar Baby.
Yes. So she said Tar Baby. So the books were controversial, right?
Yes.
It alerted the NAACP. People are like, what? How could this book exist? This is racism. This is not what the community is about. So Joel Chandler wrote these books. But these books were actually inspired by the Black people that worked for him, right? That's where we got those stories from. And so this process and where we are today in the Wren's Nest is reclaiming and preserving our history. I wanted to join the board to actually not necessarily support Joel Chandler, but to support the importance of storytelling in our community and preservation. Oral history is integral to our sustainability. So if we're not sharing the stories of our ancestors, if we're not sharing and preserving those, then where do we go from here? How do we grow and elevate? So that's just what this is about. So I'm super excited to be here, to serve on the board. We have the executive director that's here. Dean, raise your hand. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope I did it right. Did I say the okay, good. I kind of just I'm a historian by trade. So sometimes I just kind of add my own little flavor to it. That's how I do my storytelling. So just to get into the rest of the experience, right now we're going to be joined by Daryl and Gibron. We're going to have a great dialogue. After that, we're going to have communal dining at 3. Right down here, we have champagne, water. It's going to be great. But before I actually allow them to jump into their conversation, let me introduce you to Daryl. Come over to Daryl. Hey, Daryl.
Hey.
All right. So I didn't memorize his bio, so I'm going to do a little bit. Daryl was born in Alabama and began his training at the age of 18 as a student at the University of Alabama. He graduated with a degree in dance and English. While studying and training, he was able to secure scholarships from Harvard Summer Dance, Cleo Parker Robinson Dance Ensemble, and 2 full scholarships to the American Dance Festival at Duke University. He has had an expansive career and earned his MFA in performance and choreography. He has taught dance at Booker Middle School for the Performing Arts before moving to Atlanta in 2006, and then became an adjunct professor at Agnes Scott and the University of Georgia, where he served 4 years as the first person of color to hold a full-time appointment. In 2010, Daryl, alongside Terry Slade, premiered Lift Man Dance Live, showcase featuring male dancers and choreographers working together to discuss and create work about men of color and the issues they face. Currently, Daryl is continuing to write, produce, direct, and is expanding Lyft into an artist management company. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Daryl Boston. It's hot. All right, beautiful people, enjoy.
Thank you guys for coming out. I just found out that I have the proof book, so I don't even know if I read the right thing.
It's like 99% right.
Okay. Okay. But very exciting. And I think what's beautiful and special about the book is that it's a young man chronicling the history of his family from the male side, from father to grandfather to great-grandfather, and how that influenced his life and his fashion and his taste and his worldview, which is stunning to me. I'm gonna just get right in here.
I'm waiting for Daryl to write the book about the case study that he's building on me and my family. That's
Yes.
what I'm excited about. We're not talking about that now? I blew the fans.
Well, we actually started working on books together at the same time, and I just took a step back and I said, I'm gonna let you finish your book because I'm a mess and you're gonna have to help me get my book out. But anyway, Men of Style is one of the first areas of the book where he explores conversations about his family and fashion. And I wanted to ask you a very poignant introductory question. What are the differences and similarities between style and fashion?
So,
Style versus fashion.
yeah, fashion is like what is like presented to us, you know, like the fashion, the times, the look, the idea, you know, and then style is like a personal interpretation of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in the book, you discuss briefly your father has a uniform.
Yeah.
Tell us who your father is, what he does for a living, and what his uniform is.
Yeah, so my father's name is, he goes by Tony Shepperd. He has a government name, but Tony Shepperd. And his uniform, he's a music engineer. So a lot of his job
He's
is...
not just a music engineer, he's one of the premier
He's a big
music
deal.
industry. Yeah, but they downplay it, and I just figured out this year that he's probably one of the most historic musical engineers in history. Like, he started engineering music analog.
Yeah.
Like before they had digital. I don't know why they played this
That
down.
blows
but
your
anyway.
mind. And
does
so,
blow my mind.
because he's a music engineer, he really desires comfortability. And his uniform, like, he was gonna come here when we were gonna have it last week, and he was like, what do I wear? And I was like, just wear like a lighter version of what you normally wear, which is basically like black t-shirt, blue jeans, and he used to wear K-Swiss. That used to be like his signature shoe. but he
In the
had to
90s.
switch it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like day in, day out, that's what the man wore.
Like, his dad was here last weekend because we switched to event day. But his dad was telling me, I spent $35,000 to turn our garage into a music studio, which was amazing. I got to see it. He goes, but my first client was like Bono, and we paid it off that first week. Am I telling it right?
It's some, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, so my first client was Bono, and we paid it off. So what are your male style influences?
Definitely my grandfather.
Okay.
We talk about like the Cuban heel in the book, which when my grandfather passed 3 years ago now, and that was really like the precipice kind of or like the basis for the storytelling that we have here. And I was always enamored with these shoes that he had. He wore these like, they're called Cuban heels, and they're like a 2.5, 3 inch heel, and it's like a little boot. And I was always obsessed, and like when he passed, I like went into his closet and I like took them, and I was like, these are mine. I don't care, these are mine.
We'll get back to some of those style influences as we go forward, but I think it's very important at this time to explain Sabbath Afternoon, Sabbath in the Black Church, differences between the religion you were raised under and Judaism. what are some of the Judaic influences on your religion, your upbringing. Also talk about Islamic influences in your upbringing. How is it that you are Christian, Islamic, Jewish? Explain all of those connections for me right now. And then you can also read about some. I feel like I'm in kindergarten.
Well, there's a visual memoir, you know, so there's like a lot of like visual aspects of it. So my father's black, my mother is half white and half Pakistani, and we were raised Seventh-day Adventist, so that meant that we went to church on Saturday. And growing up in Los Angeles, a lot of my friends were Jewish because we all kept Sabbath together, you know. But like my cousins on the other side of the family are Muslim, so like on any given weekend we would be like participating in Ramadan and keeping Sabbath and myriad other things.
Tell me about some of the restrictions within that religion. So get deep now. Tell me it was not allowed to what?
Yeah, so there's a lot of, so Seventh-day Adventism really kind of looks at Christianity through like a Judaic lens, just to put it simply. And so there's a lot of like removing. So like you're not supposed to drink coffee, and you're not supposed to listen to secular music on Saturdays, no pork, no. So really looking at like that Old Testament of like through religion.
And also really, as an artist, as a creative, auditions and performances are when?
Saturday, which we were not. That was like a big struggle in our house. Growing up in Los Angeles, we were like, oh, we want to be actors. And we had to be like, but Dad, you want us to be actors? And we want to be actors, but like auditions are on Saturday. Like, how are we going to do that?
And I think it got heated a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I'm the mediator between he and his family. So a lot of the things that he wants to say to his father, it comes to me. And then I have to filter it, you know. But there was a heated moment in your upbringing when your dad was like, you need to be more serious about your performing, your acting and whatnot. And you were like, well, how am I supposed to do it if everything's on Saturday? You know, tell that story.
I mean, that was basically the story. I mean, it was a constant struggle. And I think at one point my mom kind of had to be like, well, they have to do it because it's a grade. Like, if they don't go to these, like, classes on Saturday, they'll fail the class. And he had to kind of be like, oh, okay. We had to rationalize it for him, you know?
So he's difficult.
He's difficult. But we love him. We love him. And there's lots of texts that explain. I tell them this to my father all the time. I'm like, I love you, but you're a jerk. It's true.
So the first comments, I'm reading from The Color of Everything in the book. It says, oh, look, you should read it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, The Color of Everything.
Okay.
And while you're getting ready, I'm going to show them. One of the first things that he set out in the beginning of this journey was an extensive color palette, each color meaning and representing something special. And you can see here, this is before on that side, this is before anything was sewn, anything was created. He actually created a color palette, which is, I thought I was the only one that did that for my life, but he did it too. And for example, Black African diaspora, that's me.
Also me.
Yes, also me and you and some of you. But I'm picking that one because that's me.
That
That's
resonates.
what I'm saying. Yeah. So
Should we begin?
I don't even know what to say. Like, this is fascinating. Like,
So basically, for those images, I really went through old family photographs and just kind of ideas, and that's how those colors emerged. Like, those colors were just present in those particular kind of photographs.
And there's a jacket. Your great grandmother.
Great grandmother.
Great grandmother's wearing this yellow. Looks almost like this one here.
Yeah.
And then he created a whole look based on that yellow, more like this shade here, but that structure. He created a whole look. Are you showing that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Showing that.
Yeah.
So I'll read The Color of Everything.
Okay, and then
we'll move on.
Yeah.
The Color of Everything. The first comments people tend to make about the collection are on the colors. An array of subtle colors that, when paired together, create a vibrancy that is stronger than any one color. They form a rainbow effect on a rack, one color after the next, propelling your eye forward. When I started designing the collection and pairing the colors together, even then, it caught the viewer's eye. Initially, I felt all the color combinations were too much. I was simply studying, trying to understand certain pairings. I recall the dean insisting that I keep all the colors and figure out how to incorporate them. I surmised the best way to do this was through monochromatic looks. This way, they could stand alone, but also somehow coalesce. After collecting initial inspiration images from the various memories of my life, particularly my childhood, the color palette came together almost instinctually. While reorganizing and reassessing the materials to put this book together, I came to understand that my childhood home in Van Nuys, California, had all of these colors present. Arrogantly enough, I thought that I had cultivated the colors through magic and study, but I had already seen all of these colors interacting in real time on Keswick Street. On reflection, I don't think it was my parents' intention, but our home was an observational study in color. The exterior of our home was mostly white, but trimmed in hunter green, with calla lilies and lilies of the Nile planted in the front garden. The front door was also green, housed 4 yellow panes of glass with a spray-light texture. Beyond the door, you were led into a small foyer painted a desert sand color. You could turn into a buttery yellow kitchen, enter a periwinkle and sea blue accented living room, or go down a forest green hallway. Each room's color pushed you through the next and harmonized in some peculiar way.
Okay. I was thinking about what you were reading. I was thinking about I grew up in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
So it was like every room was a different color.
So you're like, okay, whatever.
No, not whatever. No, not whatever. I'm just like, it's amazing because like now it's like
Everything is very like white.
yeah, everything's
Beige.
like all the rooms match.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And, I'm just
And my
like,
parents are children of the 70s and 80s, so I feel like that
kind of still happened.
yeah.
And I was like, okay, because I was like, yeah, that sounds like my upbringing.
Right.
And we grew up in a red brick house, and our front door was orange. My dad painted the front door orange, and then we had and we called the rooms by the colors. Did y'all do that?
No, we just call them like, the living room.
Go in the green room or go in the.
No, we didn't call them like that.
We did that. So I also wanted to point out to you guys that the elements of the background here are Genesis and Exodus. That's the beginnings, and so we have a lot of greens in that. And then we have Black African diaspora. His father is black, and then we have these. What color? How are these colors? Did you get to these?
They just came from family photographs.
Okay.
Like I would literally take like a tool, like a paint dropper in Photoshop, and just like select the colors.
Fascinating. Explain Desi. What does Desi mean?
So
and Desi
Desi-
Pakistan. That's the next.
Desi to me is like the equivalency of black. Like black explains like a people out of the African continent, in and out of the African continent, and Desi explains people out of the Indian subcontinent, which would be part of Pakistan.
And then California, which I don't tell Gibron this, but I'm jealous he gets to grow up in California. And I say mean things to him like
All the time.
California is a theme park for natural disasters.
Which it is. Like there'll be fires, and I'm like, oh, there's about to be a mudslide soon. Just wait for it. And then like 5 days later, there's a mudslide.
Moving forward, we did talk about this already, but I wanted to talk about your great grandmother and this beautiful yellow ensemble, which inspired the yellow look that Gibron wears sometimes. That you will see him in. This is your. Tell me about your great grandmother. Where is she from? Where?
So my father's mother. So my paternal grandmother is her family is from the D.C., Maryland area. And they are part of, or partially part of an ethnic group called the Pistachio people, which is pejoratively referred to as the We Sort, and they are a mix of indigenous black and white peoples, and they're very traditionally very insular people. Doing it. We're documenting here.
We have heated conversations about what black is and what black is not, and culturally what is black. And some of those conversations end up like, I don't recognize you as a black man. Some of those conversations end up as, Daryl, you're completely too limited as a black man from Alabama. Their ultimate experiences are very different than just what you know to be black, and then we're yelling and throwing things. And we stop speaking for days.
Or I can testify.
But we have a lot of conversations about identity and race and culture and class and ethnicity, which I'd rather not say race, I'd rather say culture, class, and ethnicity. It's what we have conversations about and what that means, because we couldn't be more different but more the same at the same time. We're gonna talk about flowers and bees.
Flowers and bees.
I want you to talk about flowers and bees, and as much as you feel comfortable talking about the virility of the shepherd man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, flowers. How do I start? I start off basically saying that, like, I wanted sex has always been like a very important part of like my understanding of life, and like even like in middle school, like people would be like, you know, like you're attractive, or like, you know, like there's like a thing, and I'm like, what? There's a thing? And so I really was kind of looking at like my thing, my dad's thing, and my grandfather's thing. So my grandfather used to have these women, these women around him, and they would just like fawn over him, and everybody would call them his flowers. So it was Shep and his flowers, and these women would like be like show up at his door and just be like, oh, we made you dinner, here's dinner, and my grandmother would be like, this is ridiculous, what's going on here?
So the women would come to the house in his marriage years.
Yes, women loved my grandfather.
Women love your father.
Women love
women
my
love you.
Do they?
Yeah, they want to love you. The men, the women, it's he in the shepherd bloodline.
And so my father has his damsels, so he loves a woman in distress. He loves a woman in need. And I basically go on to talk about in my book, or about me, is that I don't know exactly what my thing is right now. And maybe one day my children will be able to tell me what my thing is. But I do know that, let's see how I describe it. I basically compare myself to a bee. And I kind of talk about how I work for sex and I work for the relationship, and the pleasure is in the work, you know? And so I don't know, I guess I have flowers, but a different kind of flower. I guess my grandfather was a gardener, and I'm a bee of the thing.
What type of?
A bumblebee, a honeybee.
Drone, worker, queen.
That's a good question.
There's a whole bee thing in our house. There's a whole bee thing. This is one of my favorite images that you did.
That's my, which one, the collage or
Just
the
like,
actual family?
This whole situation right here.
Thank you. That's kind of what I'm actually wearing now. That's like a dumbed down version of what I'm wearing now.
Moving on. Oh, this blue look. Really.
A story there.
You want to talk about this one?
Well, that was like one of the first looks that I did.
Oh, but the other blue look you sent to that place that we may not be able to discuss that never came back. Can we talk about that?
No, let's not talk about that. We'll talk about that later.
Speaking of Queen Bee.
Off the ground. That was actually one of the first looks, and that actually relates to the tangerines. If you want to talk about that. Sure. Okay. I'll let you
So
guys.
further explorations into iconography. And there's been several points of iconography that have been created through your process. And one of those is the Tangerine. Can you read a little bit of the poem that you wrote, Tangerine Dreams, and talk about creation of tangerine. This is a fabric that he created, a pattern, and talk about the iconography of the tangerine, how that came about.
Yeah. So I'll just read the poem first, and then I can kind of dive in further. Tangerine Dreams. Supple leather skin, dimpled and cool to the touch, and warm to the eyes. A gentle undress, spiralized to expose ashen-veiled fibers between the conversations. So tangerines were just like a thing that we had in our house, like all the time, and we would just like sit down on Sabbath afternoons and just like eat tangerines and like talk and joke and laugh. And my brother, if you guys like follow me on Instagram, sometimes I'll post this picture. My brother has this amazing skill where he can actually like spiralize like a tangerine like in one peel. So it's just like this amazing like S shape. It's like the most beautiful thing to me.
Your brother like Kyber peels.
Yeah, Kyber just peels it. He just like spiralizes it in one go. You know, most people are kind of like fumbling, and you know, mine looks like Pangea. You know, like it's just kind of cracked and like spread apart. He has a beautiful skill for that.
He went to Yale.
He did. He's a big deal. I'm the underachiever here.
Oh, we can actually talk about that. I'm sorry, I'm glad you brought that up.
This is also a therapy session. You guys also come into my therapy session.
He's joking about being an underachiever, but he also talks about how he's the older of 4 siblings, and he was the the not smart one.
Yeah,
He
the not
felt
smart one.
Not smart.
Yeah.
And all of his siblings went to like great institutions like Mills College and Yale and Northwestern, and he just went to a junior college in the mountains of North California, and started working at a junior college, but learned detailed skill about clothes making.
Yeah.
Talk about how you felt insecure about your intelligence, and tell them how I rescued you from that and actually built you that you actually were.
So like growing up, I had a mild form of dyslexia. So like I couldn't spell girl for a long time. Like I didn't understand like how the I and the R worked. Like that's just like my brain was never working in that way. But like on the flip side of that, like I would like find lumber and like be like, oh, I can make a bench out of this. Like I can like make things, you know. So my brain was like processing information in like a different way than my siblings. My siblings are all like very book smart and like can spell and like do these things and memorize and add things. Oh my goodness, don't get me started on adding. I can't add. Like multiplication. Like you guys ever do like the ice cream party like multiplication thing in elementary school? Like every like times table you learn, you get like a scoop of ice cream and blah blah blah. I think I had like I think I had like two scoops of ice cream. Everyone had like a deluxe cherry on top. I had like a scoop of ice cream in a cup. And so yeah, so basically I just like really hunkered down into like creativity and like making, and like so when I graduated high school, I was like, my dad was like, you need to go to like a university, like you need to go to FITM, and I was like, I don't need to go to FITM. I don't want to go to FITM. I was like, I'm gonna go to this community college and like learn. Like I'm gonna like learn how to make things. Because I've always been obsessed with like the make of things. And then after that, I moved to New York and was like, I'm gonna be like, you know, I'm gonna move to New York and someone's gonna find me and let me be an intern and I'm gonna work my way up, and like life doesn't work like that. Not for me at least. It works for some people, but not for me. And so I left New York and then went back home to LA. To my childhood home. We'll get to that. This is like his favorite line. So basically, Daryl calls me on my birthday after being home for a year, and he goes,
Where were you specifically?
Hold on, let me tell the story. He was like, what are you doing? This is my birthday, mind you. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm in bed.
I also said, happy birthday!
Right.
But I said, what are you doing?
Who sent you? And so he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm laying in bed. No, he's like, no, with your life. And I was like,
he was on a bunk bed, by the way.
Like, you couldn't let me get to it? Like, you just had to, like... So anyways, I'm like, I don't know. He was like, what do you want to do? Live in this bunk bed for the rest of your life? Your childhood bunk bed? And I was like, oh my gosh. And like, as soon as like...
Were you crying?
No, I didn't cry. I do cry, but not for that. Basically, as soon as that conversation like happened, I was like, all right, Dad, I'm moving to like Georgia. I'm moving to Atlanta. He's like, what? And so then I started SCAD, and like literally like a month after that call.
Can we talk about your father's feelings about the South, and you want to present your personal?
No, that's not too personal.
Can we talk about how he felt about the South, and you
Yeah.
coming in to say, I'm going to the South?
Well, I think the South, there's a great deal of colorism in our family, especially from my grandmother's side. Mimi, yeah. And so I think my dad has a very light-skinned black man and felt very traumatized in his youth by other black people. So he has this kind of like, he sees himself in black people, but also there's like this like weird trauma. So the South for him is very like, it's uncomfortable for him because he has to face a lot of that, you know?
And what we do to each other.
And like when he was here, he was just running around town. He was like, I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you're terrible. Right, look at these ghetto people. I'm like, Dad, oh my God. Oh my God. So not only are you colorist, you're a classist. I love it. I love it.
The same ghetto people that was on the plane. I had to stop the car. Okay.
I was like, mind you, like, there's, you know, like, there's so many, in Atlanta, there's such a wide demonstration of black people, you know? But I don't think he was willing to look at that. Like, in California, there's pockets of black people, and then there's black people like me who are like, oh, you don't look black, but you're black, but like the Rashida Joneses of the world, you know?
Y'all know who that is.
We know Rashida.
Yeah.
We love Rashida. So it's just very different here, you know?
Do you find that to be what you needed at the time?
I think so. Yeah.
That brings us to a good place in you made a shift from women's fashion to men's fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about what brought about that decision.
Yeah. So that was kind of before starting my senior year at SCAD, I did a project where I looked at the way that men dressed from the region where my mother's family is from.
Tell the name of
The Pathan people, and that they're on the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan, and these men like wrap themselves in cloth, and like it's something like it's a blood memory that I have.
You do that.
I do that. Yeah, like, and I did it like as a child, and my mom would laugh at me because I was just like, I don't wear like pajamas, so like I'll just be running around in like t-shirt and underwear, and then I'll like take a big blanket and I'll just like wrap myself in the blanket. And my mom would like laugh at me growing up because like that's what these men do and did. And so I did this project, and I was looking at the way that men dress in that region, and then I was putting it back on a female form, and my professor was like, why don't you do menswear? And I was like, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. And then some things happened in fashion and were happening in the world, and I had to like really step back, and I had to like look at myself, and I had to really assess why I was making women's wear, and if I was telling such a personal story, why would I put it on a woman's body? Like, I need to put it on a man's body to make it more poignant.
And do you feel like sometimes men are out of place when they're putting their visions on women's bodies? Or you just...
I think it was just a decision that I had to make, you know? I think some people, it makes perfect sense, you know?
And talk a little more about black men as iconography. I'm really referring to
The sensitive man. Yeah.
You didn't think I read your book?
Oh, I don't know. You was acting like you didn't. Well, my dad was in town. The joke was, it was in the book. Did you read it? It was in the book. I mean, I just really, once I knew that I was making a collection about my family and about myself, it was really important that I displayed black men how I felt like they hadn't been displayed before, and in a way that I see myself. You know, like the campaign images and the lookbook images were shot by Christian Cody, and when we were, Christian Cody's an amazing photographer. He, I think, most recently shot Regina King for one cover she did. I can't remember which one.
It's a Vogue cover.
No, that's Tyler Mitchell.
Tyler Mitchell.
So Christian and I were sitting, and I was like, you know, I really want these images to feel like if the Moors were included in the Renaissance, you know, because we cut black people out of history so often, and black people are so often pivotal points of history, especially in art and creation, and I really wanted to express, you know, that sentiment, you know, like what if the Moors were allowed to be in these Renaissance paintings? What does that look like?
And talk about veils of mystery.
Veils of mystery. I've always been really fascinated by the veil, and we have 5 minutes, Daryl.
I'm almost done.
Okay, very good. I've always been really fascinated by the veil and hiding. I think who I want to be as a person is more anonymous, despite my like boisterous personality at times. Yeah, I'm just very fascinated by the veil. It's sensual and mysterious, and
These men are beautiful in this book.
you know how to pick them. You know how to pick them.
These are just beautiful. Really beautiful. Since we have to hurry up. The green book. I need to talk about that. Zora Neale Hurston. Read that real quick.
Oh, my Zora Neale Hurston.
Page 74.
So that actually is a direct quote from a friend who had visited. You said 74?
Yeah.
Who had visited California, and she basically, we're in the conversation, and she goes, "There are no black people in LA," and I was like, "There are black people in LA. They just look like me. Like they're not like they don't phenotypically express in the way that we like to express black people, but they are there, you know." And so in the section of the book, I call that skin folk versus kinfolk. So skin folk was the question of the statement, there are no black people in LA. And kinfolk is the idea that although they don't phenotypically express the same, they are part of a black family.
And I just want to say, just in wrapping it up, I can truly see the evolution into blackness. And I just want to thank you for really adding to the quilt of the African diaspora and how it can be expressed in a myriad, diverse way. You know what I'm saying? Because so often we just see one idea of what blackness is, or one concept, or one idea. And here you have painted a wonderful tapestry of like family and heritage and influences of types of black folk I don't even know about. But like when I'm starting to read into the book, like as you started reading into the book as well, you'll see like, oh, I need to know, like when you're talking about the Weesort people, and like I just didn't, and how you were able to pull from that and then mix it with Pakistani Desi heritage. It makes for a beautiful collection. Even quilting and flowers, just wonderful, wonderful. Did you want to open up for some questions?
Yeah. Do we have time for questions? Really quickly? Yeah. Any questions? No questions.
They're shy.
Don't be shy.
We're doing $10 per question.
Okay, I'll ask questions.
Hands is everybody. Pandemic.
So there's a picture in there about the beautiful man.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm gonna stand by you and I'll project for you.
About a beautiful man, the image of the beautiful man. How did you choose that particular person?
Okay, so she asked, there's an image of a beautiful man in the book that we kind of previewed, and she wants to know, how did he choose that person?
You were at SCAD and they said, here are your models. And you said, hell no, they ain't my models.
Oh no, that wasn't even that. So basically, Christian casted the photo shoot, and Justin Boone was one of the models. And like he is just a beautiful man. Like he is classically handsome. You know, there's people out there who are like, oh, like you're attractive in like an interesting kind of way. Like he is just like a very classically handsome man. And so I really wanted to like that was the image that Christian took, and I really wanted to highlight that image and pair it with the essay.
So, three? Yeah, say something about the essay.
So the essay really is just talking about like self-care. And my father is a man who's obsessed with beauty and about presenting himself in the most beautiful fashion. And so that is a thing that has rubbed off on me. And I talk about how on Sabbath Afternoon sometimes we would actually like groom each other. Like we would like like somebody would like clean out someone's ears, and somebody would do someone's nails, or someone would do somebody's feet, and like we would just like communally self-care for each other before self-care was like a popular cultural term.
That brings families closer.
Yeah.
My dad tried to clean my ears. Like, I'm like, get away from me.
Like my family and I love, like we'll see each other and we'll be like, oh my God, how are you doing? Can I pop that whitehead on your face? Because it looks so, it's ready for the popping. It's ready for the popping. And that's how we show love. Like, I'm not gonna let you walk around here with a whitehead on your face. We're not doing that. You know?
One more question.
One more question? Okay, yeah. Let me go over there.
I just wanted to know, I guess why you guys were even on stage, just focusing on kind of taking the fashion and telling style. I kind of wanted you guys to explain your outfit.
Do you guys hear that? So the question was, we wanted to know the intentionality behind what Gibron and Daryl were wearing, and why are you wearing what you're wearing today? And what inspired you?
You want to go first?
Well, this is indicative of our dysfunction as friends.
Question where people could hear it.
Well, the question is, what are the intentionalities behind what we're wearing? And I was saying that this is an example of our dysfunction as friends. And I was like, I didn't know there was a color thing. I said, well, I told you. He was like, I was like, well, I didn't know. I don't remember. He was like, well, it's right there. Like, you know. So, I don't know. This matches my bed. My bed is this color right now. So I was like, I'm going to wear that. It matches my bed. And I have on red socks. Because I was like, let me put on some red socks because it's special. But talk more. You designed this, actually.
Yeah, so I designed these pieces. I've really been trying to wear more white because I feel like I wear dark colors too often. So that's why I also wanted the dress code to be like very bright and white and warm. And I'm really obsessed with like Obatala and like that kind of the Yoruba gods, and so I'm kind of channeling that a little bit. I'm hoping to in this creative space in my all white. So that's the look and the mood.
Awesome, you look great.
Thank you.
Have you guys been inside the pop-up shop yet? Who has? Raise your hand. Awesome. For those of you all who have a signed copy, Gibron will be signing signed copies of his book, so I really encourage you to purchase. I think Gibron is brave and bold and courageous to blend his passion for fashion and also emerge that into literary arts and share that his talents with you all, with the world. And I think it's really brave that you actually even wanted to showcase this on a larger platform at an event at the Wren's Nest and bring a very interactive experience. And so when we say we support Black artists, it's not always about the notable ones. It's the ones that are right in our backyard that we also need to support. So I encourage you to purchase his designs. I encourage you to purchase his book. I encourage you to talk to Gibron and talk to each other. What brought you here? Why do we need to have the Black body undergo rest? What is preservation for ourselves and our collective conscious? Marinate on that as you eat and you dine and interact with each other. Thank you so much for Daryl and Gibron for this incredible conversation. I can't wait to rewatch the live. Because that's going to be my job.
Thank you for all of this.
Yes, no, this is awesome. This is great for us. So at each table, we understand that a lot of you may be COVID conscious. We understand that. There is wipes for you all to wash your hands. There's hand sanitizer. There's also disinfectant spray if you want to spray your bench down. We do invite you all now